My guests today are visual artist and director Marco Pedego, Academy Award-winning co-writer Alexander Denaleris, and producer Michael Sorenzi, and their cinematic masterpiece, Dovecote. Now, artist and director Marco Pedego's work has been shown internationally at world-renowned galleries all over the world, from LA to New York to Paris. Now, he directed his first feature film, The Absence of Eden, executive produced by Martin Scorsese, and the Academy Library Museum acquired the film's screenplay to be part of the museum's permanent collection. Now, we have Academy Award-winning screenwriter and co-writer and producer of Dovecote, Alexander Denaleris, as he won the Academy Award for Best Original Screenplay for the 2014 film Birdman, starring Michael Keaton. Now, through his production company Lexicon, his first feature that he wrote was Still Life. Most recently, Lexicon produced In the Summers, which won the Sundance Film Festival. Now, producer Michael Sorenzi has developed, produced, and financed over a dozen films independently and in partnership with major studios. Variety magazine named Mr. Sorenzi as one of its 50 creatives to watch, and he was awarded the Maverick Producer of the Year at the California Independent Film Festival and an American Film Institute Award for his production of Before the Devil Knows You're Dead. Well, their short film Dovecote is a delicate and spiritual experience of a film starring Zoe Saldaña. Vividly recreates the final hours before her release from prison, while examining the emotional realities faced by her fellow inmates. Now, the film was exhibited at the 60th Venice Biennale this year as part of the Vatican Pavilion and has qualified to be considered for the 2025 Academy Awards. Let's welcome director Marco Pedego, Academy Award-winning co-writer Alexander Denaleris, and producer Michael Sorenzi, and their spiritual experience of a short film, Dovecote, to the show. Welcome, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Welcome. Thank you to having us.
You're very welcome. Well, I have to say, this is the most artistic, beautiful experience of a short film I have ever seen in my entire life. So, Marco and Alexander, what was the inspiration behind writing this beautiful story and bringing it to life on film?
I think was everything started because I was contacted to be part of the Venice Biennale this year. The film still shown now at the Venice Biennale for the Vatican Pavilion through Chiara Parisi and Bruno Racine. And this year they decided the Vatican Pavilion was at the women prison in La Giudecca in Venice. And Alex, to me, is more like a friend or collaborator. Is very like a mentor from the writing and producing with Michael and Rob. And I have this opportunity to sit down with him and say, "Look, we have this incredible opportunity. Do you want to be part of this?" And humble enough, he said yes to me. That was an important piece of why this film, Dog Code, is visual working, is because the story and the structure Alex created. We did it together, but Alex really created the structure and everything. He really make the film a different experience. And I would love Alex to jump in about how I start the process, and after I can add about what I learned from the inmate when I went to visit them in the prison.
Yeah, go ahead, Alex.
Yeah, it's simple enough for me to say that if you've seen any of Marco's work, whether that be his artwork, installation work, or Absence of Eden, his apparent mastery of visual composition is sort of undeniable. I know him now for a little while. We're working on a few things together, and I love him. But outside of that, when you see somebody that's that masterful, it's hard to say no to any opportunity to do something together. So when he brought the idea to me, I got very excited by what he speaks in images, and they got me very excited, and it all began from there and his artistic mind.
Now, Michael, for you, what inspired you to be part of this incredible film, and have you visited the prison yourself?
Yes, I was fortunate. I was on the production from the time we got to Italy. Marco and I met about a year and a half, 2 years ago, and we formed a group of companies. And in our first meeting, he asked me why I hadn't produced a movie since Sidney Lumet, actually in 2007. And what I told him is I hadn't been inspired by new young filmmakers and really the filmmaker community. It takes a lot to get me into that mindset. So he was similar to Alex. He was my initial reason. I felt that I see myself as a producer very, very specifically as a silent partner, and that should be kept silent to the creative process. So for me, I thought I'd be able to help Marco from a different point of view with Alex create that vision, produce that vision, and support that vision. And that to me
Yeah,
was a big opportunity.
and I want to add something because you mentioned the art world and the film, and I really believe in this. In the art world, you are alone in the studio. Maybe you have one collaborator, but you spend more time with yourself and the artist there and try to understand. But when you're making a film, it's a pure collaboration. For my job is to surround myself with people that are better than me. Alex is really a master of writing. And Michael and also Rob and Michael really have this incredible experience to producing. And but the truth is, if this collaboration is not, if this process is not pure collaboration, you can never make in a picture you have in your mind. And I think it's not making a film is not question of ego. It's not about yourself. It's about the picture and the story you want to tell. And Alex always tell me that the character have only one true, and to understand each other, say what is the true and what is the scene is about, and all these things. There's all happening because you surround yourself with people that are much better than you, and that's why I honestly like to make film.
Well, for all three of you, did all three of you have the opportunity to talk to some of the inmates in the prison?
Yes.
Yeah, yes, all of us. I want to share a little experience, but I went there 5 days. I went there. I did a one trip before I went to with Alex in New York to writing the story. I went there and I meet the psychology and I start to meet the inmate. And 5 days before the shooting, we prepped the film. I flew in and I met all the inmates with Zoe, and we start to really have a conversation with them. And we was very lucky that these women, these incredible women, they want to be part of this project.
And how about you, Alex? So, what experience did you have when you were able to talk to some of the inmates so you could actually write this story?
I mean, Marco brought me this story first. I got to meet some of the women afterwards. I think, you know, for the sake of brevity, the most impactful thing for me was afterwards and speaking to an inmate who had been in prison for I think it was 18 years or so, and she was so very emotional having seen it, gave me a giant hug and just said like that was us, you got it, you saw us. And I think there's no anybody can compliment your writing or your artwork or your film, but nothing quite hits you or is more gratifying or relieving than hearing a subject of something that's this important tell you you have it, we feel seen, we feel visible. And that was very emotional for me. I think Zoe and Marco and Michael as well. I think we all felt like that was the whatever else happens. That's the thing. Her face, her hug. That's the thing I'll stay with.
Well, Michael, what was the most emotional part of this film for you?
It was actually being with Marco and Zoe when they were meeting the inmates for the first time, and Zoe and Marco talking with them and more or less asking them for permission to go on this journey. And Marco had the opportunity to already meet them, and Zoe speaks Italian, which I knew she spoke Italian because I saw from scratch, but to communicate with these women, and some of these women, by the way, from all over the world, right? I think it was for me, the emotional response between Marco and Zoe creatively to Alex's point, intertwining and interweaving with this group of people, and to his point, accepting that, and they wrote beautiful notes and poetry, which Marco can talk about. And at the end, it was a lot of hugs on the last day, saying that we were seen, that we felt seen.
Yeah, it's a beautiful film, and I've seen so many prison films from Brubaker to Shawshank Redemption, The Green Mile, but there is an unusual aspect to the setting of this particular film. And when I see a film where there is a prison, there's usually a strong sense of separation. But in this prison, it felt like there was a community within their walls. Was there a sense of community among the women?
Undoubtedly.
I can speak about. Yeah, I agree, Ale. I agree.
Sorry, Marco, your feed is a little bit
Do you?
um,
No,
yeah,
no, no, Alex. Alex, please go.
it certainly did feel that way. It certainly did exist. I think that's what they were saying. I think what Marco did exceptionally well in this film is that, in this film, you sort of approach from the outside of the prison, and Marco does it in a 2:3:9 in a wide frame. Sorry, in a collapse 2:1 frame, and then when he gets into prison, it actually opens up. So the argument becomes: is it what makes you free? Is it the family within those walls, or is it being alone outside those walls? And I think that imagery that he utilizes to its maximum potential, and seeing those women together gives you that feeling of family and community that exist in those walls, and sort of turns on its head the notion of what freedom fundamentally is.
And also, I think what you did, and what I think is very special, structure wise, what I think is very unique, and I never see them before, and I'm learning from you, Alex, is Aristotelian way. In the second act, the character need to have everything is lost in a way, and in this way, in the way you structure was you let Zoe, your main character, go away from the prison, and you have another woman come in, and everything is lost, is in another woman body, than another woman feeling. And what
Yeah,
to make you understand that this is a complete cycle, of these all these women. Quindi, yes, visual, I was capable to do that because your story, what we wrote together about your idea, your intuition was the one making grounding this and make you feel real and make you feel very honest about these women. And what you did with the exchange of the character, I think it was very, very brilliant in the way.
yeah. I think that we were talking when we met them and we understood the situation. We're talking about a cycle of pain, and in this case, incarceration, and so the structure is not traditional in that where we should be going through Zoe's hardest, the all is lost moment, the real crisis of character. What we chose to do was hand that off to another prisoner coming in, which you can't expect because you're used to her being your protagonist and your star. And we realized if we gave that moment of crisis to a new character coming in, it would demonstrate more than we could ever say a sort of endless cycle of this oppression, of this sort of endless imprisonment. And it seemed to work very well. I'd never done it before that way, but it seemed to work very well for this film. And you're always looking for the magic bullet when you're writing any script, and then when you have it, you sort of understand the rest. And I think for Marco and I and Michael, I think once we knew that, we understood that we had the skeleton on which to build.
Well, that scene in the corridor with the woman coming in and Zoe leaving, I've lost count how many times I replayed that scene because I found some things that were brilliant, actually. The woman coming in has a slight resemblance to Zoe. And when she comes in and they pass each other in the corridor and Zoe turns around and looks back at her, it's almost like she's being reminded her first day coming in and her last day leaving. It's a
Yeah, it's
profound moment.
actually, I think your intuition is completely
Exactly right.
correct. Is that's what purpose of Alex when he wrote the story. I remember exactly when we wrote that story. When he wrote the story, he said to me, "Look at me and say, Marco, look, this is quite something because when they were coming at the beginning, you will understand when Zoe came at the beginning a long time ago. You see what she went through before she find the community." And I think, my job from a director, yeah, like co-writer with Alex, but Alex wrote it, was to try to create the light on. When you see the scene, you see she's walking in a way where you're thinking, okay, the light is outside, and of course, in the reverse of the entire film, when you're outside, you don't know what happened to this character, if she will jump in the water or she will just go and making the more incredible life for herself. And I think that was the question we want to landed in the end of the film.
Yeah, and that's the beauty of the ending of the film. But I want to get to that in a moment because this film is just an off the chart, out of body experience. And when I saw in the film that there were at least a half a dozen or more of these inmates per room, I know that the word dovecote means compartment type structure, mostly for pigeons, and of course, Venice is definitely known for that. Was this why you named the film Dovecote?
I made the film because Alex, when we were sit down at this restaurant in New York, Alex came out and said, Marco, look in New York. When I walk around, I always see this pigeon. And pigeon, what they do, they sit there and they just, and Alex, you can keep going this conversation, but what they doing, they're almost waiting to die and they blowing themselves up. And Alex, you can keep going about this. And the very similarity between the pigeon in New York and the pigeon in Venice, because they're two cities full of pigeon in a way.
When we knew what it was going to be about, I grew up. I've been a New Yorker my whole life. I'm here right now, and I was born and raised here in the city. And when a pigeon reaches the end of its life, you only know if you live someplace where there is an abundance. And they'll sometimes they'll be on a sidewalk near you and they sort of just sit and they're molting a little bit, and they watch go by. If you walk near them, they won't fly away. They can't fly away. And they spend the last sort of hours of their life just watching everybody go by. And it was always sort of really sad to me. There's something just, I don't know, profoundly sad about that to me. And when Marco brought this up, I said, I don't know why I'm thinking of this, but I'm thinking of this moment. And that pigeon became a leitmotif for us, and that's how we arrived on it, and that's how Marco arrived on Dovecote. And that's I don't want to ruin anything about the movie, but when you see Zoe on the bench at the end and you realize what's happening, it's just sort of a very elegant, I hope, metaphor for the entire exercise, and it has that bit of sadness to it, I think.
It does, and I'm not going to give the ending away because I want everybody to see this film because it is compelling and it is profound. Now, how many in the film are actors and how many are inmates?
There is only five. There is only five actors inside the film, and the rest, the guard, so not the guard, the police, the inmate. They're all like inmate from the prison. There is Marcello Fonte, where is he won Best Actor in Cannes for this movie called Dogman. For Matteo Garrone, he's the guard. There is these great actors. Maria, you know, 'cause she changed the T-shirt with she changing the sweater with Zoe Marinena, and there is one more actors when they change in the bracelet, and the rest they're all inmate. A majority of the people there.
So were the inmates
There are around
did they want to be in the
22
film?
inmates. Yeah, there are around, to be specific, of the entire cast, there was 22 inmates.
Some of them
Around
did.
22.
Most of them did.
Yeah.
Some of them did not, and they were able to be excused from where we were going respectfully. A lot of them did. I think Marco has an extraordinary shot that you'll remember when we go through this corridor and these women are looking at you. They're staring right at you in the audience, and those faces, those are basically women who are in there from a short to a very long period of time, and you see the sort of character in their faces, and nothing tells you more than I think that traveling shot that Marco captured beautifully. Because the ones that did want to participate were clinging to the idea that they could be seen, And I think doing this interview with you, if anybody watches this and it makes them watch the short film, you're helping with the same thing. You're helping more eyes see it. And that's what they were hoping for. And that's what they're looking at you with no judgment, they're just looking at you.
Yeah,
So it
here's the thing I love about this scene, because it's extremely moving and powerful. But because of the way that you use the camera, you're taking us, the audience, through this moment. Not one time. I've literally lost count how many times I've seen this film and particular scenes. When you go through this scene, not one time did I ever cast any judgment upon any of those women. What you did is you gave faces to the faceless, as society pays no attention to those in prison. It was very moving and profound at the same time. But what else caught my eye was that not all of them are Italians. And the age range was very wide amongst the women in prison. And that actually surprised me.
Yes, actually, it's a very good point. I think there's 81 women in this prison and 23. I think I don't want to make a mistake. They're around 20 to 30. They are Italian, and the rest are coming from everywhere around the world, from North the Africa, from the east of Europe, from everywhere around the world. And the age is, like you say, specifically, they're going from very early age to an older age. And it's very touching because that scene I never forgot. I remember very well because I was in set and I asked Alex, I said, "Oh, I have this idea. I don't know if I need to put it, in from the camera, looking us or looking outside." And he said, "Try both." And we look in each other. I was in front of the camera. He looked at me. We did it one, and I turned into him, and he said, "Is this one?" I said, "Yeah, you're right, 100%." And that's how it was. It was a feeling. Both of us, we was when we was behind the camera. And again, it was. I'm very honest. It was a very spiritual and honest experience. Like it was. I will be always grateful to have this experience with my friends and with my wife, and also all these women. I learning a lot. I learning compassion. I learning. 99% of these women, they are abused by men,
I read
and
that.
every night
And
they was leaving letter to me and Zoe, and Zoe, now we receiving letter every night from them, and this letter there was so much vulnerability on. It was very touching.
this
I
movie,
just
no, go ahead.
sorry. No, I just wanted to say, in this time, like, I'm very moved and very proud had to have done this with these guys, and Zoe and the ladies of the prison and the actresses. I think in this time of division, wherever you stand politically, it's just so much. We can judge them. Obviously, there were crimes committed. That's why they're there. They're not all saints sitting in that prison. But when you look at that image of all of them, like you said, ranging from 20 years old to 80 years old, you realize if you look carefully enough, those were all little girls at one time. Those were all somebody's daughter, all of them, who were smiling and wearing a dress and playing and laughing. They were all of them, like all of us. And if you can start to see it that way, I think we don't have to. They know what they've done and they're serving their time, but we can find compassion, because whatever side of the political, religious, whatever side of anything you're on, we were all innocent children at one point, and seeing them in this light is just. I mean, I'm emotional now saying it. It's spectacularly emotional for me, and I hope that comes through.
You bring up something that a lot of people need to truly think about and take to heart, because this is a film that really does show innocence lost. And I want to talk about the visuals of this film, because I fell in love with the separation between the outside world in color and the inside of the prison being filmed in black and white, because the contrast between the two worlds gives the story a much deeper meaning. Even the black and white parts, even just walking through the corridor, has this very Bicycle Thieves-esque look to it, which is striking, but it evokes deep emotion when somebody watches this film. Why did you choose to film it this way?
First, you mentioned a great movie, Bicycle Tiffany. I'm very grateful about this. It's like I grew up with my grandfather showed me this type of film. But I choose that because the question was what Alex say, and he wrote in the structure what freedom is about. And from a perspective, a director, I was looking a frame from a 4x3, a square frame, always cut. And inside, the idea was to go to a frame very large, 239, but black or white, and be one consecutive shot. The idea was to ask yourself what freedom is, because of course everybody will answer, yeah, freedom is outside, beautiful blue night. But the truth is, the one shot was represent the union, was represent this part of community. And the truth is what Alex already say is when people see you, now you feel alive. When people see you, you part of the community, you belong somewhere, you can transcendence. And the idea for me was to really capture that in the visual aspect. And I can only do that because structural wise, there was an incredible structure created by Alex. And grounding that, it led me the freedom to go visual in the way I dream when I felt. But the truth is that the big separation, the idea of to thinking of the audience, to make him thinking, is almost the reversing in the end with the pigeon. And you ask you, what really is a freedom outside or is inside? And the same is how the frame was. One completing one long take, and another one was completely like cut. And that's why I make that choice.
I love that. Now, Michael, were there any challenges in being a producer for this film?
Not 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 with the creatives, not with the brilliant creatives of Marco and Alec. So one, Giudecca is a functioning prison. So, and it's not a documentary, right? So we're shooting in a location, to both Marco and the way Alex was expressing this about the inmates and the guards being the actors in it, outside of, Gaia and Marcello and Marilina and Zoe. It's a functioning prison. So we're shooting within the walls of something that its utility has nothing to do with the creative aspects of creating film. There were challenges, but to be honest with you, Marco had connected the production and brought us in with Enzo Sisti, who's an amazing Italian producer, who then introduced us also to Fabrizio Cerato. And, so we had a really great, like honestly, a brilliant Italian crew working with, we'll call it the American side of the production, right? And that was very cohesive. So when we did run into events, they were usually fixed, hopefully for Marco's sake, pretty quietly without anyone really being interrupted creatively.
You did an amazing job.
Yeah.
Well, I do have a question about the filming inside that prison, because one of the things I noticed during the filming was almost the complete absence of guards in the shot. Why was that?
It's a good question. We're learning so many things. We're learning in a women prison, there is sort of room where only women can be, women police can help them to the to the anything they needed in one sector, and the male uh, police is actually only in a few spots. And the idea, actually, what we learn I mean, personally, when I observe that in the corridor, in the place, they have a very, very kind of like, it's treated, but it's not treated in the way in Italy we imagine. Something really come out to me was, number one, I'm from Italy, and I had no idea that there was a women prison in La Giudecca in Venice. And also, what I discovered, it was very, for me, wake me up was, think about, you go to spend so much expensive money in beautiful hotel like in the Giudecca or in Venice, and some of the blank sheets of your bed, they're washing by these women. Okay, there is a really community there. There is a very, very, is a very, very unique place. And that's why we make a decision to don't put and be honest as possible of many like police women that are there is, but then you don't see them so much when you walk around the prison, and that's what I felt. They open the door for you, and actually there's a little, they told me when the key go inside your door and they open the cell and the key fell down, his mean one woman will be released. That's why we choose the first shot to the key to fall in the ground, because there is these little things we learning from a policewoman.
Well, let me
Yeah.
ask you this, because there was something that there's a beautiful scene and it's very quiet, but it moves, it almost floats through the film. Was there a nunnery in this prison? Because the stark contrast of the nuns in the chapel praying versus the rest of the prison was striking. Why was this scene important?
Because it was important for two reasons. Number one, before was a prison, was a monastery. And that's why. And the second part is like a lot of the women they come in without have any clothing or anything. None coming to the prison, and they help these women and the servants with clothing and with certain type of assistance.
Ah, beautiful. Now, there's a particular scene in this film that I had to play over and over again because I was trying to figure out the significance of it. The only scene that left me wondering was when Zoe came to claim her belongings.
Hmm.
She left a
That's
necklace behind,
Alex.
and
Alex, come on.
now what I literally paused the film at the box because I'm thinking, is that a cross? Because I even pulled out a magnifying glass because I was trying to figure out if it was a cross or was some of the chain of the necklace crossing this pendant. But was there a particular meaning to that scene? Because if it was a cross and she left it behind, I wondered if she had lost her faith.
Yeah, it was an intentional decision. I think that you had to look at it closely is because I think Marco and I agreed that we didn't want to be overt about it. But in that scene, and I didn't think, because it was the Vatican that sort of commissioned Marco to do this, and it was funny because when Marco and I was sitting and I thought of this idea representationally, I thought they're never going to let us do it. I mean, they're never going to let us do it. And to their credit, they were fine with it. And yes, you're right. Uh, but really, what she does is she's collecting her belongings to leave the prison. And in that little tiny cardboard box, which is all she walked in, is a wallet, some tampons, and a necklace with a crucifix on it. And the wallet and the tampons are practical things. When she looks at the crucifix, there was no need for it. The time in prison had eliminated her idea of what that was when she went in. And so it's a question of faith, right? It's a question of, well, will she find it again or not? But to say it doesn't exist there, she's going to have to find it in herself. So she takes the pragmatic things and she leaves the symbolic thing. And it was very intentional. And I was super surprised and pleased that they let us leave that moment in, again, to their very credit, where the church is saying, yeah, you can doubt your faith. Of course you can. You're right. Peter did. Paul did. The Bible's full of people that doubted their
It
faith.
was amazing. It
You can,
was all Paul and Jimmy experience. No, I'm joking, but when you go into ride with Alex, he have an amazing
because
place
that's the
where
restaurant,
he is writing.
right here
It's
in
a
New York.
restaurant, Paul and Jimmy, where he's writing incredible film. And we have sit down there, and Alex say to me, with a crucifix. And I say, okay. And I call him 3 days after I spoke with the curator, say, I love the idea, Chiara is incredible. I say, we need to have an answer by the Vatican. I say, oh my God, Alex, not going to happen. And after they call us and say, absolutely, you can do anything you want for every artist we choose. You guys can do anything you guys want it if you believe it. And we did. And I call him back, and I still remember now the phone call I did it to him was very, very funny. Thank you to bringing this up. It was very great observation.
It is a scene to watch because it's the facial expression on the guard
Yeah,
But in the
Marcello.
end, faith for everyone is a choice. And so there was a choice in that scene. And I'm really glad that the Vatican just lets you have full reign on what you wanted to do. And it literally worked.
I think they
But
knew we were being disrespectful. We were talking about crisis of conscience. We were talking about questioning faith. We weren't being disrespectful, and I think they knew that. But still, you wouldn't expect them to be, uh, so let us do it, but they did. So
well, let's talk about this
And
music
I
score. Oh, go ahead, Marco.
no, I want to add one thing because it's very add one thing I learned in this, and I rewatching the film multiple times too, and also the idea that this again go Alex, these prison, these women they're coming from everywhere, and at one point I have a doubts of what kind of language was speaking inside the prison. And an idea of Alice say maybe we keep him very low as possible, and like that, that experience, this not put so much dialogue or put the crucifix and the music. It was what I think is a very rare to see a 17 film almost don't have any words about, but you're feeling so much because the structure is so there or certain different things is there. And I think that's something interesting for me from an artistic and director's perspective.
I agree. And I love film. I love short films that are almost, if not absent of dialogue, because they're far more creative to watch. But this music score plays a huge role in this film. Was there a particular process or an idea in which you worked with Sebastian Cotterer to create what I think is probably one of the best film scores of the year?
Oh, wow. The truth you wanna the truth was we cut this film. Don't laugh, but we did this movie. We prepped this movie in 5 days. We shot the film in 5 days. We went to the basement in New York of Alex to edit
right
it.
here, where I'm sitting
And
right
yeah, this is a true story. And Alex said to me, "I have a guy for you for the music." And we are lucky now because Alex uh, was bringing inside his incredible editor, Andrew Leven, and Andrew was capable to put like a little score already when we was looking the images. And me and Alex say, "Oh my God, the guy just already editing the film. We put some music on and Alex is very close friends with Sebastian. I say, you need to try this guy. You need. I say, Alex, anything. He come down to the basement. We give some direction. He come back with the score, and we was speechless. When again, this is like it's almost like a punk band making his taping in the garage. You understand? That's how we did this film. It was in a basement of Alex, and
right
these
here.
old friends are part of his community in the place we are, and we tried to do our tape. It was like a band, like a punk band. It was all completely. That's the way it was functioning. Actually, maybe we giving a couple of notes to Sebastian. We say, listen, the place when the woman come in, we would love to have this section completely silence. That, but the rest, it was he did such an incredible job with Andrew and every we did everything exactly where Alex now take the interview. That's the magic place.
This is what we affectionately call the cave where I'm sitting right now, and you don't see it, but there's a movie screen, a big one that drops here, and on that side of me, there's tables, and we did the editing right here in this room with Andrew Leven, who's just does a wonderful job. And Sebastian and Marco and I were all just sitting here in this room. Such a family sort of experience, and I think it worked really well for this film. But Sebastian made a beautiful score. I knew him already. He worked on a short film of mine, a 35-minute film, and he just has a way of bringing beauty and dissonance together that gives you it really evokes emotion and doesn't get sentimental. And I thought he was the perfect person, and Marco and Michael trusted me. And I was lucky that he delivered because otherwise I would have been on the hook.
The thing that caught my
No, that's
attention,
not that's not true.
the thing that caught my attention on this music score was actually a very particular scene in the very first part of the film when inside the prison the camera pans over to Zoe and she's already sitting on her bed for the last time, and she she sighs. She sighs twice. And when I heard the music score was doing this up and down tone, and I'm thinking it was almost matching the way that she had sighed, because it's you almost sighing as a sign of relief, but it was really beginning a brand new journey for her, because it was her last day. And that's what actually caught my ear on the music score. Just a very unusual scene in the very beginning of the film. But one more question, because the colorist of this film should get an Oscar, because the coloring was so surreal. I fell in love with it.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Javier had worked with Marco on Absence, right, originally, and
Yeah, no, yes, I love it. But for me, again, is one thing is very interesting, and I want to just say this is Alex bringing up something at such a good point. It wasn't a family experience. This was not making a movie, guys. This was completely different. It was somebody can you sitting back from a director perspective and you let doing what the another people doing best. And I think if you understand and be honest that this is the learning process I done before my first film, my second, when you have that understand about cinema in that way, think transcendence. I really believe in that. Best artists that are coming through collaboration like Polke or Josh Boy, great filmmaker. I really believe that film is a pure act of collaboration, and the idea to step back and have Alex writing and tell you this scene is not working story wise. Why is working this way? Or the color person, or and have us like Alex and myself to really looking into this and really understand all of this. I think that's for me was the really enjoy. And the color correction of the film, I worked with him and a photo cam, and it was an incredible colorist. And we knew, me and Javier, what kind of color we wanted and what kind of grain we wanted. And I think Javier Julia, our director of photography, did an incredible job on the film. And we have also a great time. We have so much fun.
Well, this film is a work of art. Ladies and gentlemen, DOVECOTE explores prison life and its aftermath. Filmed inside Guidecca's working women's prison on an island in the Venetian lagoon, the carefully constructed script of this delicate and spiritual experience of a short film, starring Zoe Saldaña, vividly creates the final hours before her release while examining the emotional realities faced by her fellow prisoners, portrayed by 20 actual inmates of the prison. This film is a visual experience for the eyes, an audible experience for the ears, and a spiritual experience for your soul. The fluid motion of the cinematography provided by Javier Julia takes us on a tour behind the walls of the prison. The motion gives you the feeling of an out-of-body experience that is rarely captured on film. The editing is so seamless, you will believe the whole film was one long continuous shot, and editor Andrew Leven provided his masterful touch on this film. Now, the beautiful music score provided by Sebastian Caldor just multiplies the cinematic experience and the spiritual motion and the emotion of this film. Craig Mann provided the incredible sound mixing, and again, it's a spiritual experience for the ears. Now, we must showcase the incredible talent of actresses Zoe Saldaña, Gaia Scodalero, and Marilena Annibali and Marcello Font. Now, DOVECOTE was created by the stellar team with producer Enzo Sisti, first AD Lorenzo Da Nicola, and line producer Fabrizio Serrato and DP Lorenzo Sisti. Now, we want to thank Marco, Alexander, and Michael for sharing this beautiful film with us today, and much success to all of you in your journey to the Oscars. So I want to thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for watching and listening. And as for me, you'll either see me at the movies or from the red carpet.